Jolly Green 1990 here to discuss She-Hulk Season 1, Episode 3. And wow, there was a lot. Start off right with the fact that I like the fact that She-Hulk Jen Walters is getting a lot of publicity for the fact that she is a Hulk. And it's not the fact that she's necessarily representing Emil Blonsky. I like the fact that the episode begins with her going in to talk to Emil about the fact that he and Wong essentially broke out of prison and were fighting in the Shang-Chi 10 Rings of Power movie. I thought that was a nice little tie-in. And then I like she talks to Emil and immediately mentions Wong, and they jump kind of to her paralegal talking about who Wong is. She's Jen's car driving, and she's mentioning kind of the third person to the audience about how it's not necessarily a cameo show. I do like the fact that we are getting a lot of these characters who have been in other movies, other show, possibly going to be from other shows coming in to the She-Hulk series. I didn't like when they transitioned to the office where she was talking to Holloway, where essentially they're going to have her represent the DA that she essentially worked with, who was in a lawsuit against a shape-shifting elf. I don't like the fact they're kind of making Asgardian stuff kind of like a little joke. I mean, side note, I think part of that is because the humor that went with Thor: Love and Thunder, and the director Taika Waititi, who I like as a director. I think he has done okay. He's done a wonderful job with some comedy relief. As a Thor fan, personally, from the comics, I like the more serious that aspect. That I'm fine with the comedy, and so that's why I think we're getting some of the stuff from the magical beings right now versus in the comics it was more of the mutants and superpower beings to go with, because we haven't, the MCU has not introduced the mutants yet. I think it's coming, but we have not gotten to that point yet. And so I think this is their way of essentially explaining some of the other super powered stuff is the Asgardians, the new Asgardians, and then the magical realm with it. And so I didn't like that, not because of the new Asgardians, but right off the bat, it seems like they're going very chauvinistic and kind of playing on the fact that, you hear some male lawyers, dumb, spend a lot of women, and didn't like that. I get it. You have a female lawyer, but I still think you don't need male chauvinistic lawyers to show how competent Jen is and have a good story about another superpowered incident to go with it. I did like the Holloway's assistant, who actually ended up representing the previous guy Jen Walters used to work with. I thought his character was solid. I liked, jumping ahead, how they tied in the stories and his representation of bringing Jen Walters into court. And this was after the fiasco where the pixie from, or the superpower person from New Asgard, who was a shapeshifter, went to court, and they essentially were arguing just the fact that Mr. Blonsky was an idiot for believing that she had transformed into Megan the Stallion. And within that, I thought it was cool that Megan the Stallion was in the back of the court. And then at the end of that little scene, the Asgardian transforms into the judge. And I thought that was interesting. That came back later, biting the butt. They actually did get served court time for that. And so jumping back to the fact that when Jen was meeting with Holloway, Wong shows up. They go to her office, and Wong essentially is talking about how he's could erase people's memory, how there's different realms, the Shao realm, mirror universe. I thought his mention of that was all cool because it's bringing in all these different elements we kind of know exist. And I like the fact that we know he is the source for him. They'll still explain how. I think a lot of us have figured out now it's because during the Thanos snap, he was the one on Earth, not Doctor Strange, so he kind of stepped up the mantle. I do like the actor. I think he's a wonderful actor. I like the character, the way they've done with it, so I thought it was interesting and nice to bring him in. When Wong's interactions, for the most part, were solid. There have been a little goofiness I didn't really like, chauvinistic stuff, and then as well transitioning now to in Emil Blonsky's case, he's before the parole review board. to essentially see if they'll let him go. And I like the fact that Wong had agreed to appear. Jenna just said, hey, just show up. And he's like, okay, fine. And didn't like the fact that you had these witnesses or his Emil's lovers present at this hearing. To me, that made it seem more like a joke, not an actual hearing. I did like the fact that they had three witnesses still really more credible, and so essentially scratch off, and so then at that moment, Wong appears and he essentially admits to coercing. We know it seems was probably more asked him to have an actual challenging opponent, and then because based on that, like, well, we don't know if he's a threat or not. It's like, I'm not a threat. Transforms into the Abomination, which I thought was a cool way to kind of see that transformation. And then the judges, kind of the people on the parole board, freak out at the same time, just like, hey, hey. I thought it was cool that she did not transform into She-Hulk. That was awesome for me to see. And then he transforms back. He's like, whoa, I got this. Covers himself. And then, like, yeah, Emil, you're good. But Wong, you admitted to breaking a man out of prison. It's like, later. And so I'm curious to see where that storyline is going to work. I mean, I think realistically he's going to have diplomatic immunity, or in fact, he just goes back and forth between Cabotage and New York. I could also see maybe they send some troops to the sanctuary. That could lead to some challenges. I don't think it will, but I'm curious to see if that happens. Do you like then that Emil is released on the condition that he will never use his powers? And I like the fact that that happens within the stories are connected. And Jen has kind of an idea and shocks the audience, explains it. I didn't mention this, but I like the fact that we are seeing that Jen Walters is struggling with juggling the fact that she's a lawyer and the fact she's a She-Hulk with the fact that the media's already got an opinion of her. And so I like the fact that Emil's like, they already have an opinion. It's your choice to choose the narrative pretty much. And so I was like, I like that. And so I like the fact that she does go on TV and essentially address the narrative. Still feel like they're being a little, they're not treating with respect to me. I still feel like we're kind of getting that hill because she's a female lawyer. We have to kind of continually show that there's chauvinistic issues with, or men who have issues with her as a female lawyer. So, oh, you're not that important. It's like, don't like that aspect. I mean, she's strong on her right, whether it's She-Hulk or not. And so treat her with respect. And I think their show could have, but there's still, I think that's going to be a theme for a while. And I get it. I'm not happy with it. I think you could have done better with it for the writing. That's just me. Granted, I'm not a writer, so I can't talk. But to me, as someone who loves and knows the comics, I think there's the better stuff they could do with it. I do like the end where essentially when Jen leaves the bar, she gets jumped with, I'm assuming is the Wrecking Crew from the comics. Different iterations from the Wrecking Crew are 4 or 5 guys who essentially have different weapons, literally like a Wrecking Crew where they knock down buildings. One's got a steel ball, others got a hammer, others got a crowbar. These guys do end up getting some kind of gamma radiation powers. There's other versions, I think, where they start off having superpowered weapons, which to me, I like the fact that Jen mentioned that. It's like, what are you, Asgardian Wrecking Crew? It's like, yeah, I could see that Asgardian, but to me, it looked more like magical items, not necessarily Asgardian. So they might be from Asgard, and that's fine, the weapons. But I'm also thinking there's other magic that's not just from Asgard. So it could be other relics and stuff we don't know about. I do like the fact the guys refer to the boss. I don't remember exactly in the comics who the direct boss was. The biggest one I can think right now is the Kingpin. I mean, we know for a fact where it's been supposedly leaked that Daredevil, Charlie Cox, will be in the series. So I could see the Kingpin. If not the Kingpin, I'm curious to see who they're going to bring in. I definitely think we're going to relate it back to the Giganta storyline. She came in early on, especially now the fact that Emil has been released. I'm curious to see how that'll play. And so with that, I have a feeling that Emil, because remember, Emil's, or spoiler alert if I've not said that, forgive me already. For Emil, I have a feeling that he might get attacked and transform. In his condition that he stays out of prison is that he doesn't transform into Abomination ever, even to save his life. To me, and I would feel as there's always going to be that little in between. And so I feel the writers could go that way. To me, that would be an interesting way to say, hey, you know, yeah, you can't transform you, but you're gonna die here. So would you rather go back to prison or die? So it's like, fine, I'd rather go back to prison. And so he transforms. And in that moment, I could see with Jim Walters, aka She-Hulk, and maybe Wong showing up. With that, I do want to mention with the CGI for She-Hulk, still a little disappointed. I think they could do better. There were some angles I think was good or looked acceptable with others. Where she's walking, you can definitely see, like, I think when she's walking from quarter to quarter, it definitely feels like CGI could be better. I will say when the fight with the, I'm going to call it Wrecking Crew if I'm wrong, we'll fix that later on. Wrecking Crew, it definitely, I like how she transforms. You could see kind of the holding on to it. That to me looked, that CGI looked better than when she's walking between the halls or even when she has an interview with the guy from the news channel. So that was a little disappointing. I was impressed with Wish of the Matling's magic, the abilities from the Wrecking Crew, how they showed it, and then even Abomination transformation. I thought was fine. The CGI looked good. It's Jim Walters to me, and that's disappointing. I do want this show to succeed. I'm excited for it, but from what I've seen, I'm hoping they do better with CGI for Jen. Although I also seems okay. Not necessarily having a male chauvinistic, big and proud all the time, and having it more of these are just real people. Yeah, they have, yeah, guys will spend a lot of money on women, but not to that extent or seem that dumb like the DA did. And especially these are guys in power who they can be dumb at the same time. They've gotten there for reasons. To me, I want to see a little more intelligence. And it's like not every male character, but Holland, Jennifer Walters' boss, comes off as very male chauvinistic. DA, the guy they had representing the DA, I thought so far, I liked his character. I liked the way I thought the actor did a good job. So he's fine for me. Wong's fine. I don't like Emilio's kind of love and spiritual aspect, but that's nothing against the story of the show. I think that'll be fine on its own. It's just this other stuff might. So improvements, CGI for She-Hulk. Less focus on the male chauvinistic issues between men and Jennifer. Men, particularly key female characters, not being so dumb. Those to me are the big three things I've noticed. There might be more later on, but for right now, this is what I'm concerned about and stood out to me the most. So, if you like the video, comment, feel free to subscribe. If you have any questions, concerns, things related to the comics that you caught that I didn't, please comment as well. If not, this is Jolly Green, 1990, signing out. Bye, YouTube.